Welcome to Competition Curious, the blog, vlog, and podcast for business owners and marketers who are curious about running competitions. I am your host, Suki Lankay. I am the world's first and only dedicated expert, strategist, and complete nerd when it comes to competitions. In today's episode 10, I have invited Dahna Borg of Bright Red Marketing to come and chat with me about all things Facebook ads and running Facebook ads for competitions. We are going to discuss why it's important to have a strategy for your Facebook ads, how you can run Facebook ads on small budgets such as $5 and $10 a day. Yes, it's true. You don't need to have a bank-breaking budget in order to run Facebook ads and get more entries for your business and grow your business. Mistakes to avoid when you first start out running Facebook ads or when you're running Facebook ads for your competition, and also how Facebook and Instagram ads can actually reveal places where your marketing funnel or your sales process or even your checkout process could be losing you customers. We will also chat about what stats you need to keep an eye on whilst your ads are live and whilst your competition is live in order to make sure your ads are performing as best as possible for you and your business. We will also be explaining key terms such as retargeting, ROAS, ROI, and lookalike audiences, among others. And we will also discuss our mutual hatred of Facebook's Boost Post button and what you can do instead to potentially save yourself up to $10,000. Yes, that is a real example that we are going to chat through today. So if you are ready to learn all about maximizing Facebook ads and getting started with Facebook ads for your business and your competition, let's dive in. So I am here with Dahna Borg of Bright Red Marketing. I'm very excited to welcome you as my first ever guest on the Competition Curious podcast. So obviously I know what you do. You've taught me a lot about what I do when it comes to Facebook ads with competitions, but for our listeners, can you just explain to us what you do in simple terms?
So for everyone who knows, I run Facebook and Instagram ads for e-commerce businesses. But essentially what that means is I help you get in front of more people. At the end of the day, Facebook and Instagram ads are just a tool that help you reach people that you otherwise would have no opportunity to get in front of.
That's a good way of putting it. And how did you even end up in Facebook ads in the first place?
Oh man, long story. I'll give you the short version. I started uni when I was in like grade 11 or 12 of high school, just to kind of see if I was on the right track and wanted to do what I wanted, and did a marketing course. And then I was working for my parents' business and then sort of started like a general marketing agency at 19, which was super fun. And then a couple of years into that, I did a Facebook ads course because Facebook ads were all the rage and loved it. I loved the ability to help businesses have actual results. Not to say that all the other elements of marketing don't get actual results, but I found it really satisfying to be like, you spent $500, I made you $5,000. I really enjoyed that sort of direct relation between those results, and clients were happier because it was no longer like, well, I made you 15 emails and we think they did something. You got some emails out, that's nice. Whereas now it's very much, we spent this much money, we made this much money. If you want to make more money, these are the things we need to do. That sort of clear cutness is what I really like about it and why that's all we exclusively do now.
And that's such a really good point, because I think so many people in the past with marketing saw it as, I always describe it as like a cost center or a lost cost. So, you pour money into marketing and you kind of hope that that's where your sales coming from. But yeah, one thing with Facebook ads, it's really awesome to see the actual statistics. And I know that one thing you're really big on is ROAS and ROI. So do you want to just explain that for people who don't know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so I'm a big data nerd, much like Suki. And the ROAS is basically your return on ad spend, or the ROI, which is return on investment. And it really is an investment, that Facebook ad side of things. And I think a lot of people do still kind of lump it in with the rest of your marketing as like, oh, it's just an expense. Whereas Facebook ads really become an investment in your business, and it's very easy to track.
So obviously to get that ROAS and to get that ROI, you do have to have a bit of a strategy in place. So I think I already know the answer to this, but how important is it to have some kind of strategy when you go into Facebook ads? Because I know that a lot of people listening, a lot of people who are experimenting with ads for the first time, a lot of people who sort of dip their toe in with running them, don't really have a strategy and just kind of playing with it to see what happens. So how important do you think it is to have a strategy?
Look, it is probably one of the most important things. However, I will caveat that and say if you are starting out and you've got $5 a day, knowing where that $5 a day is going is important. But on $5 a day, you can't have a real strategy, if that makes sense. You need to know what you're doing, why you're doing it, and sort of what the goal is of where that money is going. If you're dabbling and you're just like, oh, just spend $5 on a boosted post, that's bad. Don't do that. But if you're like, well, I just want to get some more traffic to my site, or I want to grow my email list, or I'm running this competition and I want to get some more people watching it, those are kind of things that don't necessarily need a full-blown strategy, but they need thought. So I'd say on smaller budgets, you might not necessarily need a full strategy, but you need to have a lot of thought into why you're doing what you're doing. Once you start spending more than $20, $30 a day, you really need a strategy. So whether that strategy is around how you're nurturing your existing audience, how you're doing some retargeting, how you're getting more eyes in front of your competitions and your email sign-up campaigns, and then especially how you're reaching out to a colder audience. Those are the sorts of things that you really need a clear strategy around. Otherwise, you can just get lost so easily. You'll listen to one podcast or read one book or one Facebook post and you'll go, oh, I'm going to do this. And all of a sudden you've got this chaotic mess, which I then end up dealing with when you come to me later and go, this is my ad account. And I sit there and go, what is happening? And you don't even know.
Yeah, that is so true. So true. I've seen so many of those as well, just with competition. So I can't imagine how many you've seen with businesses overall.
I mean, it's terrifying.
It is. And you just touched on boosted posts there. So this is something I'm super passionate about as well. But what can you explain what the difference between a boosted post and an ad is and why you don't like boosted posts?
I can. So boosted posts, sorry, Facebook, just Facebook's way of taking your money. Basically, a boosted post is when you have a post that is organic and Facebook sends you a little message being like, hi, this is doing really well. Give us some money. And you go, oh, that sounds good. And you push the button and you make a quote unquote ad. I say quote unquote because it's not really an ad. Essentially what Facebook does when you do that is push that ad out to a really strange group of people. And those people are not necessarily the kinds of people that are going to do anything. Facebook is really good at giving you what you ask for. So if you ask Facebook to boost a post, that's all they're going to do. They're just going to shove it out into the stratosphere and hope for the best. Whereas when you create an ad in the ads manager, you can still boost that post. You can give it leverage. You can amplify it if you want to use marketing terms, but you do it with a little bit more strategy and a little bit more structure and a little bit more control. So you can take that same post and you can say to Facebook, from this post, I want engagement. From this post, I want traffic. From this post, I want sales. Whatever you ask Facebook for, you're more likely to get. It's not guaranteed, but you're more likely. You can then say to Facebook, I only want you to show it to these people. So if it's a post and it's, introducing a new product, you might only want people that are sort of more familiar with your brand to see that new release. If you've got a competition, you might just want people that have never had anything to do with you see that post as like an introduction to the brand. Like there's so many different reasons as to who you would want to see a particular post or ad, and the boosted post just gives you absolutely no control. I had a client once who came to me and they had spent $10,000 boosting posts and had no idea, because every time you hit that button and it's, oh, spend $5, spend $10, and over a year or two it added up and they were horrified because they got nothing out of it. Nothing, no sales, they had no tracking. So it's a really dangerous button, and I quite detest Facebook for even having it as an option, because it is, it's a money suck.
Yeah. Wow, that is crazy. I saw, so in the context of competitions, I saw a competition. I was working with a client on a competition and before we'd done the competition, they usually hit the boosted post button, and the reach on the posts, bear in mind they've got about 80,000 fans or followers on their page. The posts, when they boost them, reach about 1,300 people. And when we did an ad where we essentially boosted a post, we just pulled the post into Ads Manager. And as you say, we had more control over who we showed it to. We reached about 25,000 people. So just to show you, and that you can use a similar budget. You could boost a post for $10, $20, or even $5 or $10, and you can spend an ad $5 or $10 a day. And yeah, it's a massive, massive difference.
100%.
Yeah, I always say that it's basically Ads Manager can be quite daunting for people.
Oh man,
so it's
yes,
basically Facebook's way of making money really easily without going into the daunting Ads Manager platform.
Yeah, which is why I find it so deceptive, because the people that hit that button are the ones that are like, oh, I'm not really ready for Facebook ads yet. And then they push that button, and then $10,000 later, they're no better off, but Facebook's $10,000 better off.
It's crazy. It's kind of like when you go into IKEA and you put things into the trolley and it's only $5, it's only $2, and you get to checkout. It's like, yeah, that'll be $5,000, please.
Pretty much. That's how they get you.
All right. So we've talked about what we don't love about Facebook platform. What about tips for people who want to run some Facebook ads without doing that boosted post horror? What would you recommend for them?
Look, we could talk about that for hours. I'm about to launch a course that tells you to do all of these things. But essentially, what you want to do is work out what you actually want. So are you wanting sales? Are you wanting people on your website? Are you building your email list? Do you want to promote your competition? And then you go back from that. Okay, who do I want to get in front of for this? Do I want to get in front of existing customers? Do I want to get in front of people who look like existing customers? Lookalike audiences are one of the, I'm not going to say best as untold secrets, because everyone who knows what they're doing knows what a lookalike audience is, but it's one of those ones that is just so underutilized, especially people DIYing their own ads. And then you sort of need to work out what that's going to look like. And look, it's probably hard to explain in a podcast, but essentially what you want to do is just go, what's the content that I want to get out there? What's the goal that I want? And then choosing the appropriate objective. So if you want traffic, if you want sales, if you want emails, sometimes that's a lead gen sort of a one. They get a bit trickier. The way that I know Suki runs competitions, you do that as a conversion event rather than using, more like your engagement and your lead gen ones directly in Facebook, because of the way she does it, which is why they're so effective. So there's lots of different ways about that, but it's really about solidifying what you want, what your goal is, and then sort of making sure that all of those options that you choose from there really align with that. That's probably the best piece of advice I can give you.
That's awesome. And that's exactly what I say when it comes to competitions as well. You choose your goal and then you choose your entry method to match that. So that's exactly the same as choosing your objective in ads. And you touched on lookalike audiences. So just in case people don't know what a lookalike audience is, can you just quickly explain what that is?
And I love lookalike audiences. Lookalike audiences are my friend. Essentially, a lookalike audience is when you say to Facebook, here is a list of people who X. And that might be people that have spent a lot of money with you. It might be people on your email list. It might be people that have entered previous competitions. And you basically say to Facebook, here is this list. Find me people like them. And Facebook is really, really great at that. So we use them a lot for all of our clients for a lot of different reasons, but some of the best ones are for your sort of email lead gen competition sort of spaces. Because basically, if you say to Facebook, here's a list of people that have previously signed up to my mailing list or have previously signed up to a competition, and you say, find me more of them, Facebook is fantastic at finding more people like that. We use it a lot for our sales campaigns as well. So if we've got a client that does one particular thing, but they kind of have a product that's a bit not quite in the same boat, we can pull a list of the people that have bought that particular product, create a lookalike of those people, and then go, okay, find us more of them. And it's really, really effective. But as I said, it works really well in that sort of email competition sort of space, especially if you're in really targeted niches. So if I'll use myself as an example. If you're in marketing, there's a million other marketing people out there trying to find, we're going to narrow by small business and have an interest in e-commerce. Like, it's huge. Whereas if I use a lookalike of people that are already on my mailing list or people that are already on my website, I'll find the right kind of people for my business a lot faster. So we use it a lot with clients for that reason, that, yeah, we can go, oh, I'm interested in fashion and I like expensive things for, high-end fashion clients. But if we go, no, just find us people who look like people who buy from us already, Facebook does all the hard work for you. So that's why I love them. And they're really easy set up in your custom audiences in Facebook.
Super easy. So to give you an idea for competitions, a couple of the lookalike audiences that we would use would be lookalike of your email list, lookalike of your Facebook engagement, lookalike of your Instagram engagement, lookalike of people who've been to certain pages, as Dahna said. And I imagine it is quite easy with e-com because you've already got that sort of list of people who are buying specific products. So I imagine that it works quite well for that.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Does it work? Does it track for service-based businesses as well?
It does. It just is normally a little bit harder because service-based businesses tend to have smaller lists. They tend to have smaller traffic. Like my web traffic compared to my ecom clients' traffic is just, it's bizarre. Like, how do you have that many people on your website at any one time? And it just becomes a little bit harder, but it's not impossible. But yeah, they definitely do have their special place in the ecom world.
You said before, which I found really interesting, that Facebook's really good at doing what you tell it to do, which I would 100% agree with. So how can you sort of use that fact to get better results from your ads? So we've talked about lookalike audiences. So we've said we already know who our clients are, find us more of them. Are there other areas in Facebook ads where you can basically use that fact that Facebook will do what you tell it to do?
Yeah. So another really good example of that is a broad audience. So similar to the lookalike audience where you say, Facebook, find me people like these people. When you give Facebook nothing, and I mean nothing, give it a country, maybe a gender if your product is gender specific, maybe an age if your product is age specific, but keep that pretty broad too. A really broad audience just says to Facebook, you know better than I do, go for it. And sometimes those broad audiences are fantastic. I will caveat that and say a broad audience won't work if you haven't got a history of sales, traffic, conversions, whatever the objective that you're going after is. So the broad audience works really well when Facebook knows your business really well, which is why it's so important to have, things like the pixel installed, have all that sort of traffic and things coming through so that Facebook learns. The other thing I will say is we talked about it a little bit briefly on, picking the objective. So if you ask Facebook for engagement, you'll get engagement. You ask for traffic, you'll get traffic. You ask for sales, you get sales. Those things also come from Facebook knowing. So if you've never run a Facebook ad before and you go, I want purchases, Facebook doesn't know you yet. So you might get some purchases, but it's going to be really hard for you to do that. So what I tend to recommend, unless you've got a really big budget and then you can sort of bypass it, is you kind of have to start with the first step. So if the first step is someone looking at some product on your website, or even if you want to go a step back and you go, no, I just need people on my site. Like no one's even been to my site yet. Don't even know what that looks like. Then you would start with something like traffic, or landing page views is probably my preference over traffic, which is still a conversion event, because traffic is just someone clicking on your ad. Landing page views is someone actually landing on your website. So if you think about what you actually want, you don't really want them clicking on your ad. You want them to actually make it all the way to your website. So landing page views is a really good start. Once you start to get some of those, then you can move up to view contents. So that's people looking at your product. If you're not an e-com based business, you can have other conversion events. So maybe they go look at your service page, or they go look at a different sort of page. But you basically slowly step up to that end goal of purchase. So yes, Facebook's really good at giving you what you ask for, but you do have to have taught it what that looks like first.
On that subject, how much do you think that we need to be spending on ads, or someone who is just starting out with ads, just diving into the ads platform, trying to work out what on earth it all means? Where do you recommend that they start?
The $1 million question.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I hate saying it, but it depends. If you're just starting out, you really can be quite successful on $5 to $10 a day. There are a lot of people out there that say you won't compete in the auctions. look, everyone starts somewhere. $5 to $10 a day with the right strategy can actually get you a lot of places. I wouldn't be spending $5 to $10 a day with a heavy sales campaign trying to make millions, but you can spend your $5 to $10 a day building your email list, getting some traffic to your website, boosting some of your content, promoting your competition. Like, there are some things you can do on $5 to $10 a day that are really effective. You can run a retargeting campaign. Those are things you can do on smaller budgets. As you start to get some success with that, you start to teach Facebook what they need. That's when you can start to spend more. I've got clients that spend $5,000 a day. So like, it really is a $1 million, how long is a piece of string? What are your specific circumstances kind of a question, but you can see success on $5 to $10 a day. We've done it with people before, and people still do it now, and you can have a lot of success on $5,000 a day. It's really going to be a matter of where your business is at and how much time you can dedicate to your Facebook ads. If you're going to do what I've seen some people do, where they spend $50 a day but check it once a month, probably should be spending less.
That's horrifying.
Oh man, it's stressful. But if you're not going to have the time, or you can't afford to pay someone to look after it for you, you really need to make sure that you're spending an appropriate amount. I will also add, if you are going to pay someone to look after your ads for you, make sure that you are spending more on ads than you are paying on them. Because if you are paying more for them than you are spending on ads, it's infinitely harder to ever make a positive return. And that is slightly controversial because not everyone agrees with me, but from what I have seen in my experience, if you're paying more, you can't make the money back. It's not possible. It's very, very hard. There might be some caveats to that. You're much better off to sort of learn how to do it yourself. You know, there's some training on the internet and things. We're launching a course if that's of interest, but like, you need to learn how to do these things yourself, so that by the time you're spending enough, you can then go and get some help from them.
Yeah, and I suppose if you're learning what you're doing yourself first, then you know what to ask for an agency as well, and you know, kind of, you go in knowing if they talk about ROAS or they talk about retargeting or whatever, then you know what they're talking about. So on that note, can you explain retargeting for listeners?
Yes, again, before I do quickly, I would just say that the other advantage to knowing what you're doing first is that you can actually see whether they're doing the right thing. I've seen too many stories of people hiring assistants and then it just being set up terribly. And they're like, I didn't even know how to check. So that's another, I suppose, caveat there. So a retargeting ad essentially is when you follow people around the internet. So they have done an action, whether that action is look at your competition page, whether it's look at your product page, whether it's look at your service page, whether it's watch some videos, hang out in your Instagram. So whatever the thing is that you want to say, hey, you've done this action, but you didn't do what I wanted you to do. That's where the retargeting ad comes into play. So the most common use of the retargeting ad is in e-commerce, and it is, you've been looking at the website, you've been looking at some product. I'm going to show you an ad of the product you were just looking at and give you some reasons why you should buy this product that maybe I didn't explain very well the first time. The other sort of situations is, your competition. So you might have a competition running, and you might not be getting as many sort of clicks through and, submissions as you would like. So you could set up a retargeting ad and be like, hey, you really should come back and fill this out. There's this amazing prize, whatever that might be, and just remind people, I suppose, to come back and finish that entry. So the retargeting ad is set up a couple of different ways depending on what your objective is, but essentially is you wanted them to complete a certain goal. They didn't complete that goal. You set up a series of ads to remind them to go back and finish that goal and to convince them. I think a lot of people run their retargeting ads as, did you forget? And a lot of the time people didn't forget, you just didn't do a good enough job of convincing them the first time. So it's really about that motivation and building in enough trust in you and what you're doing and enough excitement. Maybe you didn't sell it very well the first time, so you can, do an ad there that really sort of sells it a bit better than maybe you did the first time. share some benefits you maybe didn't have enough space to share, and just really summarize that really nicely for people.
There's so much that you can learn, just like with competitions, but with running ads, there's so much that you can learn about your business and about your sales funnel and about your process and even about your website. And I know recently you shared about a business who had discovered that there was something actually broken in their sales process, and you discovered that through doing the ad. So do you want to just tell that story quickly as a cautionary tale?
It was really sad, because we were a month in, they were spending nearly $100 a day. Like, that adds up real quick for a small business. And it was probably a couple of weeks in that we looked at their stats. And as I said before, I'm a big data nerd. So I'm looking through their stats being like, why is this not working? And they had a really high add to cart rate, which was fantastic. And then nothing. No one was going any further. So we installed a tool called Hotjar, which, if you don't know, is basically like a tracking tool on your site to sort of see people's behavior. And did that, went through the add to cart process ourselves, and their free shipping messaging was all over the place. So on the homepage, it said one thing. On the checkout, it basically said, here, buy your $700 item. We'll calculate the shipping at cart. And I don't know about you guys, but if I'm buying something over more than $100, $200, I want free shipping. Like, you've got enough margin in this. Like, it's not like, different story if it's like a piece of furniture or something where the shipping is really expensive. But for an item of clothing, people expect over a certain price point, the shipping is going to be free. So we worked out that people just were getting to that point of their shopping and going, I'm not paying shipping for this. And the way that sort of Shopify works is you have to go all the way through adding in your details and your location and all of that sort of stuff before you got to that shipping. Like, no one's going to do that. So we changed that, and they went from a 0.3 return on ad spend to a 5. So they went from no sales to making really good money just in a really short time frame. So it's probably one of my favorite parts of Facebook ads is if you set up your dashboard right, if you know how to look at the data, not only does it help you work out how you can improve your Facebook ads, but it helps you work out where the sort of bottlenecks in your business are. We've had clients that we've worked out that their site speed was just stupidly slow. So we talked about the difference between traffic and a landing page conversion before. Those 2 points, just from a data perspective, are so telling. So if you're getting 1,000 people to your site from that traffic point, but only 500 of them are landing on your site, you've got a problem. You don't want to be paying for 1,000 people to your site and only half of them even make it there. So there's so many of those little data comparisons that I could talk about for hours, but there's so many of them that you can look at and go, oh, that means this. And it's really, really clear when you know what you're doing, and it's absolute gibberish when you don't, which is why it's so important to sort of get some basic understanding of your Facebook ads.
Wow, that is quite a cautionary tale. And I suppose what we were saying earlier about the sort of $5 to $10 a day, how it's still worth it going in there, familiarizing yourself with the platform. You know, you're going to get learnings like this, but you're also going to be teaching Facebook, this is what a sale looks like, this is what a landing page view looks like, this is what view content looks like. So those are kind of like what you should be doing. Are there any common mistakes that people make when it comes to Facebook ads that you've seen over and over again?
Big one would be not having sort of a structure and a strategy. That tends to be a really telling one, because people just sort of throw money hoping it will do something, and there's nothing really there. Another one would be using the wrong landing page. So with competitions, it's quite easy. You go, I want people to sign up to my competition. Here's my competition page, the end. With your e-commerce and services, a lot of people send people to the homepage. Don't really ever want to send anyone to the homepage. You want to send people as close to what you're asking them to do as possible. So there's nothing worse than scrolling Instagram, seeing a pretty dress, seeing it's an ad, clicking on the pretty dress, takes you to the homepage, and you're like, I don't even know what this thing is called. Like, I wanted that dress. So that's probably another really big mistake that people make. The other one would be not paying enough attention. So if you're running your own ads, you kind of have to be in there a couple of times a week, maybe not changing anything a couple of times a week on a really small budget, but you need to be in there to sort of see what's going on, what can you change, do you need to change something out, And then probably just not paying enough attention to the data, because that's probably where you see the most opportunity. But it's also the place that if you're not paying enough attention, you miss things like you're spending a lot of money, but your site is really slow. You're spending a lot of money, but when people get to your website, they're not looking at anything. We've had a couple of clients that have that problem where someone will land on your site and they look at one product and they leave. Like, that's not sustainable, especially if you've got a lot of different products. You need people to be going, oh, what's this one? Oh, what's this one? Like, that's how you sort of build that relationship. So just really having a solid understanding of the data is probably the other big one.
And so when we talk about data, so when it comes to competitions, for example, we know that you need to know how many people are landing on the page and how many people are actually entering. So that tells you that how many people you're converting to entrant and whether you need to make changes on that page. So what would the equivalent be? Like, what, for someone who's starting out with ads especially, or running ads for a competition, what would be the main stats on the dashboard that they need to be keeping an eye on?
It's going to be a long list. I apologize in advance. So the things you need to pay attention to is your click-through rate and your cost per click. So they tell you whether your ad is any good. So we always want to look at link clicks. Facebook gives you two. It's always the link click version of those. Your click-through rate and your cost per click tell you how well you're competing in the Facebook auction and how well people are responding to your ad. If your click-through rate is low, it means people don't like your ad. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a pretty image or that you haven't written nice words. It's just not resonating with people. The next ones you want to look at are your traffic to landing page, as we discussed before. You want to make sure that your landing page numbers are as close to your traffic numbers as humanly possible. If those numbers are out, it probably means that your site is too slow. So that's a really big telling one. Then you want to go from your landing page views to your view content. So from the number of people that are landing on your site, how many of them are actually going around and looking at product? I like that to be at least 2 or 3 times the landing page views. So if people aren't looking at least 2 or 3 products, you've got a problem. I've had some clients where it's like 0.5. And I'm like, there is a problem with your website we need to fix. No one's looking at anything. I can't change that. Then you've got your view contents to add to cart. So are people even adding to cart? That normally comes down to your product pages and your trust. So that's basically, have you done a good enough job of selling the product? Do people trust you? Add to cart to initiate checkout normally comes down to shipping costs. But sometimes, again, they didn't sort of realize how much everything was in total, and you haven't maybe sold the value as well as you could have. Initiate checkout to purchase. There's normally not much you can do about that one if you're on Shopify, because people are going to check out if they're ready or not. The checkout process in Shopify is so clean and customized. There's not much you can do to fix that. So if you haven't done a good enough job by then, that one tends to be pretty standard. And then with competitions, as you said, it's pretty simple. Like, people have come to the website. Did they submit the form? Did they not? Hotjar is another really good one to install on your competition pages, just to get an idea of, are people scrolling? Are they clicking on something that's not there that they think is something clickable? That's a really nice one of seeing if you're not getting the data that you want, where the potential problems are, because often we build these pages ourselves and we love them and we think they're pretty and we're like, this is great. And then you kind of miss a few tiny little things. And then you've got people that come into your site and they're just like, I'm clicking on this button, but it's not a button. Or they scroll straight past your button because you made it in your brand colors and they completely missed it because it blended in too much. So they're probably the big things to pay attention to.
Hotjar's the one that kind of looks like a heat map, like it overlays your page and shows you like the hottest parts where people are clicking and trying to perform an action, right?
Yeah, so Hotjar does both. It does 2 things. So it does that one, which is the heat mapping, which is mildly helpful. It can show you that people are clicking on things that aren't there. Also shows you sort of where they're paying the most attention to. But my favorite feature of Hotjar are the recordings. So they actually record people scrolling and actively using your website on a page by page and a user by user basis. It's all secure. You can't see anything. All the numbers get hashed out. So if anyone types in any credit card details and things, you can't see anything. It's all very secure. But essentially, you can watch users interact with your website live. And it's really fascinating because you can see people where they're trying to read things, when they're trying to click on things, when they get frustrated because the site's loading strangely. Like, you can see all of that in action. And then you can go back and go, actually, we need to fix this because People are clicking on read more and there's no read more. People are trying to scroll through your images and there's only one. Like, you can kind of really start to see where there's problems. And then on sales pages, competition landing pages, those sorts of things, you can sort of see, oh, they've scrolled all the way to the bottom. They scroll back up, they scroll again. You're like, maybe they're not finding the information they need. Maybe they're, you look at them using on a mobile, you're like, wow, that looks really bad on their mobile device. We should do something about that. So it sort of gives you the ability to live test a lot of things without you having to actually do it yourself. You can kind of see it live in action.
And I guess it sort of fills in the gap because Facebook's really good at telling us what people do on Facebook. But then once they leave Facebook, it's kind of hard to get super accurate data from that, especially when it comes to actually their behavior. Like, we can monitor clicks and conversions and things like that, but the actual behavior is really interesting. So I can see how that works like really, really well in tandem with Facebook.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Do you have any inspirational client stories or favorite results that you want to share with us to show people just how powerful Facebook ads can be?
Oh man, I have so many. I don't know how to pick a favorite. Look, one of my favorites is a client that I started working with probably 2 or 3 years ago. At the time, they were probably doing $20,000 months. They're now up to like $400,000 or $500,000 months, which is just insane. And look, it's not all their Facebook ads. They've worked with a lot of really intelligent people and agencies to get those results, but look, their ad account went down for a couple of months and their sales tanked. So it's definitely had something to do with the Facebook ads. But that's probably a really, really good one. Another one, we had a client who was in partnership with someone. That partnership went sour, and she sort of had to go out on her own. So she was starting with pretty much nothing. She had a brand new website, no pixel, nothing. She had a little bit of an email list that she owned that she was allowed to bring over, and that was it. And we got her back up to about $10,000 months within 2 months. So we went from absolutely nothing to 10K months, just because we knew her industry really well. So while she had no data, we sort of knew what we were doing and were able to sort of replicate that for her really, really quickly, which was really exciting. The other one, we've done some really nice email lead campaigns. So while I love Facebook and Instagram ads, it's what we do. I am well aware of the dangers of putting all of your eggs in the Facebook and Instagram basket. As I said, we had a client whose ad account went down for 3 months and they were losing hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, which was terrifying. They loved me ever since when we got it back. They no longer questioned the Facebook ads, but it was not a fun lesson to learn. So we've done a couple of campaigns for clients recently where we've been building their email lists and getting email signups from as little as 50 to 60 cents. So that's something I'm really proud of as well, because it's something that I think a lot of Facebook people forget about. There's, Facebook. But if you're not sort of building those owned mediums, and email is probably one of the strongest ones you have, you're really at the mercy of Zuckerberg. And while I use it as a tool to make lots of clients money, no one wants to be at the mercy of Zuckerberg, which again is where competitions and things are just so fantastic, because they work so well at building up those email lists with, when you do it Suki's way and the right way, potential customers. You're not just getting random signing up for their free iPad. You're getting people who want your product. And that is just, it's so powerful. I think we had the last one we did that we were able to track the data on. I think we spent about $2,000 building their email list. I think it turned into about $25,000 in sales in a 6-month period. So in terms of return on investment, return on ad spend, absolutely phenomenal results. And now they're on your email list. So they're going to keep coming back and buying, which is really fantastic.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. I know that Facebook ads are so powerful. I mean, you wouldn't exist. How many years have you been in business now? 10 plus?
We're nearly at 13.
Wow, that's
In
gone so
June, it'll be
quickly.
13.
Yeah,
It's
so
terrifying.
obviously they're very, very powerful.
Yes.
But that's kind of when people work with you, they benefit from your expertise, but obviously they need to have a budget to get to that point where they're ready to work with you. And like you said earlier, they need to be paying you a bit less than they're actually spending on the ads themselves. So for people who are just starting out and they've listened to this episode and they like what you say and they're convinced that, they want to give Facebook ads a go, you mentioned your course. So I do just want to give you the opportunity to share what the course is about and to, offer it to anyone who may be interested in finding out more.
Yeah, so we're launching a course, and the premise of the course is essentially how to run Facebook ads on $5 to $50 a day. So past $50 a day, you're normally in a position you can get help. But I find a lot of the Facebook courses out there don't do anything for the $5 to $10 a day budgets. So it's a choose your own adventure course. If you ever read the Goosebumps books, that's the premise we're built on. And it's called Small Budgets, Big Results. And essentially, we teach you all of the back end strategies that you need, all of the different ad types that you can use, and all of the sort of combinations that you can put them in to work best for your business. So that's why there's the choose your own adventure, because your business is so different to another listener's business. And you might have a really good email list that's converting, but you've been struggling to grow those numbers. So you'd have a very different structure to someone who has a really highly converting website, but just can't get enough people onto their site. So we kind of go through all of the different strategies that you can use, all of the different ad setups. Everything's broken up into really bite-sized modules. And the point is that you can go, I'm going to go run an ad today. I'm going to go watch this video and this video and this video, and I'm going to nail it. And I know what I'm going to do. And then the most important part is then knowing how to read all of that data, which we also teach you. So it's a choose your own adventure, work out your strategy. I'll help you along the way. And that's meant to be sort of a lifetime resource to get you to that $50 a day point, in which case you should be in a position to get the help and the expertise outside that you need. But by that point, if you're going out to other agencies, you'll know what you're talking about, and you'll be able to see through any marketing rubbish that they tried to convince you with. And you go, I actually have some data here. Like, I know what I'm talking about. I just would rather not look after my Facebook ads now and go to the beach and hang out with my kids, or just hang out and chill out, or go travel, like whatever it is. I just find most people didn't start their businesses to be running their Facebook ads from bed at 10 o'clock at night, because that's the only time that you had to look at your ads. So that's the course. It's launching very soon. So if you want to sign up for the waitlist, it's brightredmarketing.com.au/waitlist. And you'll be one of the first to know when we go live.
I'm so excited for the course. I'm not going to lie. So Dahna has actually taught me most of what I know when I first got started with Facebook ads. I'm not going to lie. I found it massively daunting when I used to log in and I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know the difference between an ad set and an ad, and Dahna helped me through all of that. And now, yeah, years later, we're flying with the ads. So I definitely know that she knows what she's talking about, and that's why I've got her on this podcast. And obviously I will pop the link in the show notes as well, so you'll be able to click straight through to there. Is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I think the only thing I would say is just don't be scared of Facebook ads. Like, as you just said, they sort of make it really overwhelming. It's one of those platforms that they change every 5 minutes. So you might have done it 6 months ago, got in, felt a little bit comfortable, and then you go and you're like, nothing is where I remember it being. But everything will be somewhere similar. They don't tend to change things too drastically. So I'd say don't be scared of them. They can generate such exceptional results. So it's probably something to really embrace, and just slow and steady will get you there.
100%. Completely agree. Thank you so much, Dahna. It's been a pleasure as always to talk to you, and I can't wait for the course. And yes, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
I hope you have enjoyed today's episode of Competition Curious, our first ever guest episode. If you have, I would really appreciate it if you could rate and review and share the episode with your business owner and marketer friends. Please feel free to give me feedback. I would love to know what you think of today's guest episode and who else you would like to see on the podcast, or other subjects and experts that I can get in to help you grow your business. And also don't forget to follow and subscribe so you can find out when the next episode of Competition Curious goes live. Until then, I have been Suki Van K. This is Competition Curious, and I will catch you again next week.